I have a gift for you.
Okay.
It is a very expensive gift.
Okay.
Are you ready for your very expensive gift?
I am. Oh, wow. Okay.
That's courtesy of Bertha, my backyard chicken.
Welcome to Happy Hour, where we're flipping the script on the traditional happy hour. Instead of winding down with the drink, we're here to talk about what actually makes us happy and learn from society's healers, therapists, coaches, elders, spiritual leaders, and everyone in between. Join us as we dive into stories, insights, and tools that help us grow, heal, and support one another. Whether you're a seeker or a seer, this is for you. I'm Anurag, founder of Happy, and this series will be hosted by myself, along with my co-hosts, Mira and Tess, and we're excited to explore new ways to bring more joy and well-being into our lives. So take a deep breath, and let's dig in. Anurag here, founder CEO of HPY. I'm so incredibly excited to host Eric Pierce on Happy Hour today. Eric is an incredible clinician based in LA who focuses on ketamine-assisted therapy. He's been in practice for over 20 years and has a plethora of experience and pulls from a variety of modalities. He's one of the most grounded, anchored, and kind individuals I think I have ever met. And we're so excited to have him on Happy Hour. Enjoy the show.
It's great to meet you. Thanks for being on Happy Hour. Sure. Maybe you can start with an introduction. Tell us about yourself.
So, I'm Eric Pierce. I run Trees Counseling, soul practitioner. I've been a therapist for over 25 years, mostly started out in hospitals and clinics. And I started private practice during the pandemic and then just went full-time private practice about a year ago.
Awesome. And what specific modality, what communities is your specialty area?
Before we get into that, I have a gift for you.
Okay.
It is a very expensive gift.
Okay.
Are you ready for your very expensive gift?
I am.
Put out your hand.
Oh, wow. Okay.
That's courtesy of Bertha, my backyard chicken.
How beautiful.
She gifted that to you today.
Oh, that's awesome. Thank you so much. It's wonderful because it reminds me of in this small nucleus, this small component is every single element of life. And we forget that all of human existence starts from something so little like this. And it grows and nurtures and absorbs its environment and reaches its ultimate conclusion.
That's right.
Thank you to Bertha. That's very kind of you. I'm ready to know. Yeah, it really is. I'll place this here with some extra caution.
Like I said, it is an expensive gift.
It is expensive here. So tell me, so you've been in private practice. You've been in practice for quite some years.
Yeah.
What has been the number one thing that you've sort of observed and seen about the human condition in the years that you've practiced?
Gosh, I love this question. What have I seen or observed in the human condition? Well, one of the major things I observed in the human condition was that standard modern medicine has really failed our mental health. And along about the early 2000s, I started to realize that all of these, let me reframe this. So I came out of grad school at the dawn of the birth of SSRIs, and they were going to solve everything because your only problem was your brain chemistry. And now we realize that that's complete bullshit. It's not all brain chemistry. It plays a role, but it is really about what you've been through, to sum it up. And what I found was in my career that these SSRIs only really kind of help people to be productive, help kind of mask the symptoms of anxiety, depression, whatever. And there was no real healing happening. But there was a lot of blunting. There was therapy, which helped in healing. And then I started reading about psychedelics. I started reading about psychedelic therapy. And then I kind of fell down a rabbit hole and started reading about ketamine-assisted psychotherapy. Now, mind you, I come out of a lens of prohibition.
Mm.
At the age of 23, I was jailed twice for driving under the influence. So alcohol was either going to put me in jail for a long time or kill me. So I found AA. I love AA. You know, AA saved my life, as they say. So from the age of 23 on, I became what I would call a prohibitionist, meaning anything that altered your consciousness was verboten. It was banned, right? Even though I gave a pass to SSRIs, but that's that's a whole nother story, right? Yeah. What I began to see in all of my clients throughout the years is no one was getting better. And so I went back to this research on psychedelics, and I finally had to ask myself, it looks very promising. If you're going to recommend this to somebody, you better try it yourself. So I had to wrestle really with my whole perception of altering your consciousness and abstinence and the whole thing. And I got a wonderful trip sitter, and my first trip was with ketamine, and it was an excellent experience.
That's a new term. I haven't heard trip sitter.
Oh yeah,
I like that.
Meredith continues to be my trip sitter, and when I'm doing my next substance, yeah, she sat with me. She didn't do any substance. She just sat with me. She recorded what happened.
Right.
It was a very clinical experience. It really was. And actually, she's now a social worker herself.
Awesome.
And yeah, I started with ketamine. Then I did, what did we do next? We did MDMA and then mushrooms. And then we're going to continue to follow this cadence. I don't know when we're going to get together again.
Yeah.
Yeah. Go ahead.
That sounds amazing. And I guess you've seen this transition from the SSRI world to now the emergence of psychedelics. I'm curious, there's one aspect to masking the problem, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think a lot of the pharmacological solutions have been oriented around this concept. Psychedelics fundamentally change your neurochemistry, from what I understand, and actually create new neural pathways and new connections. But then there's this third component that I'm really curious on, which is where a lot of our work at Happy is focused on.
Okay.
Is on habit formation and habit creation.
Yeah.
And that's lightly called integration.
Right.
Where do you think that plays a role in sort of overall mental well-being, given that the world that we live in is constantly stimulated, we're constantly engaged, we're constantly being poked and prod as human beings with content, engagement, ideas, and thoughts. So where does the work fit into what you view as like the future of healing?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's a small question, right?
I like this.
The old axiom that I learned in therapy, especially around like substance abuse, if you're going to take something away, you better give them also something.
Yeah.
Right? If you're going to take a coping away, you better help them build in a coping. So to this point about like building in a new way of being, building in new habits, as you called it, absolutely. So in psychedelic therapy, after the medication, after the journey, we call it, there is a time of integration where we take all the insights we gained during the journey, during the medication session, and then we begin to formalize those into how do I expand upon these insights into my daily life. For example, for myself, I'll just take myself as an example. When I did my ketamine training, which was an experiential training, I did it with PRADI, the Psychedelic Research and Training Institute in Colorado. What I did in that training was leading up to it, I was very afraid of death. You know, I still am, but not to the degree I was then. During that journey, I became a barnacle on a way. Stay with me here, okay? So I was on a barnacle on the whale. I was having so much fun. And then a thought came to me, oh no, the whale's going to die. And in the vision, I saw the whale breach. And then I saw it slowly, quietly kind of come back down his cell into the sand. I said, as I watched it slowly fall, oh my God, the whale's dying. And a voice came to me and said, don't worry, Eric. It still catches me. It said, don't worry, Eric. You're going to die. Your parents are going to die. Your husband's going to die. Everyone dies. That's that's the rhythm of life. And as I saw the whales settle in, it felt so natural and so normal, not so horrifying anymore. It felt as much as simple as a breath. So now integration, as I worked with my coach during that afterwards, I realized I needed to really get more comfortable with this concept of death. And I found Buddhist teachings to really be extremely helpful with that. So I started a meditation practice, which I still do today. Not every day, but I still do it. And what I really found through that integration piece of the insight around death matched with a daily habit has now transformed me. Now, sure, I'm as scared as death as the next person, but it doesn't hang over me like a dark cloud, like it once did. So I hope this personal story helps to really illustrate how these insights can burst open. But if you don't have someone like at the back end to kind of coach you and help you and guide you to like turn it into a regular practice,
Sure.
it doesn't have as much bang.
I've heard recently that profound insights in neural pathways are really similar to if you're at the beach and you take your finger and draw a line in the sand. Over a period of time, right, the wind will blow sand over, it'll kind of refill itself. But if you keep dripping a couple droplets of water and flowing water through that channel, it'll sort of expand itself and sort of become a deeper crack or a deeper ravine or, play it out in a river. And the same thing applies to our thoughts and neural pathways that absolutely opening up the channel is, I think, a really critical step. But reinforcing that channel is just as vitally important to keep the lasting impact. Where do you see today in your practice, switching gears, I would love to understand, what are some of the profound shifts that you're seeing and what are some of the big challenges that you're seeing sort of in?
Yeah.
What are people coming to your practice for?
Yeah, great question. Let's just start with the biggest challenge is getting fucking insurance to pay for this shit.
Yeah, amen.
That's the biggest challenge right there. So access is access is big challenge. When it comes to clients, so I do work with a lot of LGBTQIA and all the alphabets of which I am in the G in LGBT.
Okay.
I have a fair amount of trans clients, and there's a lot of fear in that community. There's already, having to deal with people's attitudes about trans community and the hate that's really out there right now. So what I really see is a lot of struggle of like my place in the world and being myself. And what I've been working with this one beautiful transgender client is a blossoming of a concept of self. Because before ketamine, it was always about like, how do others perceive me? How do I turn myself into a pretzel to like, so that either A, I'm under the radar, or B, people look upon me favorably. But after ketamine, there was the sense of, no, this is who I am, and this is what I have to offer. What I have to offer is beautiful. Take it or leave it.
Yeah.
I'll sum it up with this. Before ketamine, this client could name 3 positive attributes about themselves. And they told me it's the same ones I tell everybody or write in these assessments. After ketamine, 12, 14, or 16 positive attributes. This is not bullshit. This is real life experience. Yeah.
And what do you fundamentally think leads to that foundational shift? I mean, how you view yourself is the most profound shift someone can have. What is happening for those for those that are brand new to psychedelics and ketamine in general? Maybe you can describe what mechanism. How does ketamine work, basically?
Yeah. So I'm no neuroscientist or doctor. This is what I've understand ketamine to work from my education. So let's remember that ketamine is an anesthetic that's used across the globe. As a matter of fact, The World Health Organization says it should be one of your top 5 medications in every clinic.
Wow.
So first of all, ketamine provides us some sedation so that we relax, right? So it provides us some sedation. And what it tends to do is create a more inward turn, where during the session, there's not a lot of talk. What it is an inward turn. Maybe the client will utter something and I will write that down. In ketamine-assisted psychotherapy, we're really concerned about set and setting, meaning what is the mindset I'm going to go into this with? So I always give my clients a workbook to help them kind of flesh out their intentions, their fears, the barriers they think will arise getting at these intentions. That's the mindset. And then the setting is this beautiful green couch that I have and plants. People have eye shades, non-lyrical music if they want it. And the music is like the wind in the sails of a ship of your soul, and that's going to guide you to perhaps islands, places yet undiscovered. The fundamental mechanism how ketamine works from my understanding, is I couldn't talk to you about the molecular makeup of this compound. However, I know briefly what it does is it just creates a new neural pathway. Simple as this. Let's say, so you're in a car and someone pisses you off. So immediately your first reaction is anger. And every time someone pisses you off in your car, anger, 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 like that well-tread. And so what ketamine kind of does is like new fallen snow. And suddenly over your beach, anyways, over that line falls new fallen snow. And so now, oh my gosh, we need a new pathway. We start to create a new pathway. So maybe our new pathway is compassion for the other driver. Maybe our new pathway is just a deep breath and like, oh yeah, this is LA. This is what ketamine can offer, new fallen snow. So that's the molecular, that's what I understand ketamine does. That's what it definitely did for me,
Right.
is create, is to tell us, hey man, you don't have to follow your path. As a matter of fact, fuck that old path. Look, there's a bunch of other different paths you can take.
How does, at least for you, like, how does that new thought come about? Like, you have, if you're to like use a COD model, right? And from CBT, there's a particular situation, there's a thought, then there's a reaction, and so on and so forth. When someone is in a psychedelic experience with ketamine, is that idea introduced to reassociate with that experience, or does it organically come up?
It organically come up. Yeah. There is some research around inducing people, around people who have substance abuse issues, inducing their thought around that and then hitting them with ketamine to see if there's a reassociation. But I can't cite that research. I just know what's going on. For me, it is all organic because our body heals. Remember, our mind doesn't bend towards pathology, towards sickness. Our body and mind's natural state, like every living, breathing, every organism in the world, is to bend towards healing.
It's regenerative.
Yeah. So if I just get out of the inner healer's way, it'll guide this person to where they need to go, what they need to see, and what insights they need to now develop. If I just get out of the way.
That's really beautiful. I mean, you start to think about what composes of a person's sense of self, and obviously this is well studied, but the piece that I find fascinating is in a world where we're rapidly generating new ideas, sharing those ideas, constructions of all sorts are created constantly. And in that ever-changing world, having that space to sort of digest, interpret, understand who you are sounds paramount, and it sounds like the ketamine modality and the ketamine treatment is creating space for that. Now, within, like, say, LA in general and sort of this community, given where LA, Virginia is in LA, what are some of the common themes? Like, what is causing anxiety, depression? What is causing the major strife that's for the folks coming into your practice?
Yeah. Stimulation, overstimulation. Why is it we have so much ADD? In my generation, I'm a little older, like ADD was a very rare thing, but now it's everywhere. And it is real, people. It's not like, oh, they're just throwing this diagnosis at a troubled child. No, it's real. Why is that? Right? It's because in the dawn of this new century, the bombardment started of information and stimulation, and it has grown and grown and grown and grown, and it doesn't seem there are any breaks to it. So that is what I think, number one, is causing so much of our distress and discomfort, just the input, is how do I respond to this, to all of this input? We were, not too long ago, we were crossing the Serengeti, and once in a while an animal would come out and life scare us, and we'd have to think about what to do. Every time you look at your phone, that's happening. We haven't evolved, and caveat, I hope we never evolve to where we can cope with our phones, constant bombardment, but we're not adapt to work in this way. That's not who we are, thank God.
It's fascinating because I was reading something that said 100 years ago, the amount of total information an individual had exposure to, we get exposure to in one singular day.
Yeah.
Which is crazy. Like if you mathematically calculate the straight up horsepower, the throughput of what our brains are being asked to do, I can imagine creates a little space. So it sounds like over input. And how are you, given these are become such tools in our life, right? Like the mobile phone is almost an extension of ourselves. If you need to go somewhere, if you need to text someone, you need to check in, even our sense of safety. My wife is often, her friends, they share location. And I was fascinated that they share each other's location to make sure everyone's safe.
Yeah.
And given that they have these new associations about modern life, is like how are you guiding people to find that new balance, or what is a healthy balance?
Yeah, what is a healthy balance? So, first of all, a healthy balance is, we need to be aware that it's a practice. And it's called meditative practice because there's no such thing as meditative perfect. Every day we practice to get closer and closer to enlightenment, to get closer and closer to peace, right? To get closer and closer to whatever. It's a practice. So how does that look? Your practice may look like less phone use. Your practice may look like more walks in nature. This is what I prescribe. Yeah, less screen time, more walks in nature, more times around friends. The next meeting you make, don't make it a Zoom meeting, make it an in-person. Go be around other living, breathing human beings. Because what this technology does, and what I think, I'm not a conspiracy theorist, but what it really feels like the people who invented this technology is to isolate us. Why is it so? There's so much loneliness, so much depression out there, because we're so isolated. We're so isolated from each other. Why is it that young people feel better of texting than calling their own parents? Now, I get that, but why is that? Because there's so much fear. There's so much fear about this, what am I going to get from this other living human being? It's as if the machine's now the safe place and we are the danger. Like, that's crazy. We need to start to undo that, because we are going to save us. No machine, no technology, none of these phones will save us, right? If there's any saving to be had, it's you and I. It's you, me, everybody else.
It's funny because we obviously work at the intersection of technology and AI. We think about these questions a lot. Is what is the role of AI in the future? And actually, before I kind of share, I'm curious for you. Given we're at the beginning of a new industry, we're at the beginning of the creation of the new sets of technology, and we have this golden opportunity to learn lessons from the past and apply them as we move forward in the future. What is the future of sort of mental health in your purview, and what are the opportunities that AI can play when it comes to healing the internal world?
Yeah. So there are risks and benefits to everything, right? I love AI because it reminds me of the Gutenberg press and how the people were like, oh my God, we can't have people reading all these things. It'll be anarchy. And you know what? It was, and in so many good ways too. My worries, number one, is who's running the AI, and it's all the moneyed interest, the capitalist. Yeah. So if the dollar is the primary interest, then we're fucked.
Yeah.
Right? We're fucked. So, however, to your question, how can AI help out therapy? Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, and my non-binary friends, humans can never be replaced by machines when it comes to the intimate. Even you can create bots and robots where people will say, oh, it's exactly like a person, exactly like a person. But the thing that you'll suddenly realize about your robot is it won't make a mistake, right? Suddenly, because it's only running on logic, it won't make a mistake. And that, my friends, is the thing that's going to save us, our fallibility, our mistakes.
The humanness.
The humanness, because out of our greatest mistakes, our blunders come our greatest victories, our greatest inventions, our greatest. So, yeah.
Ketamine itself.
Ketamine itself. Exactly. How it got into the hands of a therapist or, the doctor saying.
Or tranquilizer.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a funny story too. How it got called horse drunk. It gets called horse tranquilizer only because ketamine is also used by vets and because it's an anesthetic, and vets used to be very easy to break into and get the ketamine, so that's how it got like cat tranquilizer or horse tranquilizer, because it was always stored in veterinarians, That's my story.
I mean, it's fascinating because if you're to project out, say, 50 years, for a moment, if you look at 50 years from today, what does mental well-being look like? What does integration look like? What does it look like? If you're to extrapolate from your vantage point, we've seen, enough chapters of human history. What do you think is like the best case scenario in 50 years and the worst case scenario in 50 years?
We'll just say the worst case scenario first is that we're extinct because of global warming and a myriad of other things, atomic bombs, whatever. Take your choice.
Sure.
That's the worst case scenario. And then the best case scenario is, as my communist grandma used to like to call it, the worker's paradise, right? Where everyone has every need met. There's no more wealth and income inequality. Everyone has everything that they need. From each according to need, from each according to ability would be the golden rule of that. But what I believe is something that's going to be in between, hopefully, and that's a place of greater consciousness.
Yeah.
Where no longer are we, is it banned to explore our own consciousness through these compounds? My hope is that there'll be a greater coming together of people where I don't want to even use this word democracy because but there's a unity that finally we realize the great oneness of all things, that I am you, you are me, like we are all one thing. We are all one, that there is no separation from myself and the plants, the animals, the minerals. So when we finally arrive at this concept, then we're less likely to hurt each other, less likely to hurt our beloved Mother Earth. So that's my hope of where it goes. Where I see therapy today doing is this, we are planting the seeds for tomorrow of that tomorrow today, right? That's fake you. That is what I see my role is planting those seeds today. And for all you feel about Kennedy and his craziness, the one thing he's really is psychedelics. So my hopeful mind says he's gonna set free, which the thing he doesn't want to, which is us developing our consciousness and expanding past this capitalistic rat race.
Yeah, it's funny because a while ago, a former career, I was talking to one of the guys who basically built Uber Eats, and we're having this conversation about what happens when all of a sudden the entire world becomes just a simple manifestation of just, I want this, and this produces this results. And the question actually very quickly became, that's largely inevitability, because convenience is something that all human beings have sort of wanted. We want the ability to, not have to use as much of our brain and our physicality for things. But then the question that comes is, what are people going to do with their time? And that's where I love what you just said, is you're planting the seed. We famously have a quote in our company that we use, is that the Dalai Lama said, happiness is never ready-made. It comes from your own actions.
Yeah.
And I really believe in that it's the inward pursuit. It's the inward understanding that creates lasting happiness. Speaking of politics,
Yes.
it's a real world that we live in.
Oh my God, is it?
What's the impact of the new administration and the policies and ideas that you're seeing on the ground in the communities that you serve?
Yeah. A lot of fear, a lot of terror, a lot of confusion. Some people are being directly affected by it. And what I love, the hard knocks of life have taught me, my mindfulness training and psychedelics have given me, is this really clarity around there's to every sword there are two sides, right? To everything to every hill there is another side, right? So I had this one client, let me just give you an example. This one client got the memo, he works for the government, got the memo, you're fired. Luckily, his boss said, don't pay attention to that memo. But that engaged him in a question like, what is leadership like? And I want to be a leader. Is this my moment? Is this my moment to step in? Because I think this is wrong, he says. And he says, is this my moment to become a leader? And I say to him, let's talk about that more. Tell me more what you're feeling and what you're thinking. And then by the end of this conversation, as he works on this, he says, do you have any resources to be a leader? Do you have any books? I love to read. Do you have any? And I say, as a matter of fact, I do. And so I send him this. It may come to nothing, but it may come to something. Out of this tragedy may have born a new leader within the federal worker group that might do some awesome stuff because of this one terrible thing that happened. They go, how horrible would it be to be told you're fired, you don't get it, you no more income for you and your family? Imagine the impact. And yet, able to help him through therapy over the other side of the hill.
Yeah. I mean, it reminds me of that famous quote, right? Rejection is simply redirection. And in many ways, I think I tend to agree with you, while many of us may not agree with the policies. Many of us may feel isolated and rejected and, quite frankly, scared. It does create a moment in that mindfulness moment for opportunity to think about, well, given this new reality, how do I create? How do I create myself? How do I stand up for a voice? How do I, for every pendulum swing in one direction, it inevitably swings the other direction.
Yeah. Oh, so true. What I love about this moment, I do want to get back to your question because it was very specific. What I love about this political moment, it goes back to my practice, my mindfulness practice, the simple question I ask myself. Before, I was kind of asleep at the wheel around suffering. I knew that I suffer, but I didn't have a true awareness of suffering, like suffering. I knew people, and I would go to protests, but I wasn't awakened to suffering, really. I wasn't awakened to suffering, and really around the suffering of death. What I learned through my teaching is simply this, like what you're saying. Now that I'm awakened to suffering, how do I want to live my life? Now that I'm awakened to this terrible moment, how do I want to live it? Do I want to eat pizza on the couch? Well, you know what? That's fine. As long as you're doing it with awareness.
This intention.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really fascinating, because I think we're at a moment in sort of human history where, and I think this is probably the response, that a lot of people are not understanding what their existence here on planet Earth is about. And I think as a humanity, right, we all struggle with this question of why are we all here?
Yeah.
Inherently,
Yeah.
the fact that we all ask this question, we cannot answer it with any amount of certainty, is what unifies us. And that unity is actually what creates
Yes.
meaning.
Yes.
And it seems like that is what a lot of people are in search for these days.
Yes.
And it sounds like, from the clinician's standpoint, kind of that the next chapter, the question is, how are you doing? How are you coping with all this, shouldering the burden and / responsibility?
Yeah.
You have community.
Yeah. I love that. So first of all, what am I doing? The simple things. My chickens. Let's see. What I've really found is like loving up the people I love a little bit more, spending more time outdoors,
Yeah.
gardening. Oh my God, just getting my hands in the soil. If you could do it. Oh, right now we're growing habaneros, jalapenos, onions, and tomatoes.
Tomatoes this season, okay.
Yeah, right. Starting a little early, starting a little good, but yeah. So that's where we have those under the grow lights. They're starting to sprout out in the garden. We're really propagating a nice avocado tree, and we're gonna move all those this spring from the under the grow lights to the raised beds. So really excited about that. And we during the pandemic, my husband and I planted fruit trees in the greenway. Don't tell the city because you're not supposed to do that.
But our secret's it.
Yeah. Our thought was we wanted to feed the community. So
Awesome.
since it's in the greenway, in that that dirt strip between since it's in the greenway, it belongs to the public.
Sure.
So if you swing by our address and it's spring and there's someone, that's yours. It belongs to you. It belongs to all of us.
That's so cool. And I think that's really like, one of my practices that as part of my mindfulness practice, every morning I walk out my neighborhood. I live in a perfect 15-minute walk loop.
Mm-hmm.
And on the second half, there's one particular house that has just the best looking fruit trees. I mean, pomegranates the size of softballs. A guava tree. They have, I think, there's a kumquat tree. There's tangerines, and they're just there. And it's fascinating because I look at it every day. And actually, that is my one singular reminder of no matter what is going on in the human experience, there still is a natural world order that continues to operate, that continues to grow food, that continues to produce. Granted, we've made some significant impacts that we need to correct as a species. It's still operating.
Oh, yeah. And if you lean into that more, you will find more peace.
Yeah.
We've been taught since the Enlightenment to outsource this question of who we are,
Yeah.
to outsource it to technology, really. Like technology and the reductionism of science will have our answer to everything. Just give it enough time.
Yeah.
And we're quickly now finding that is bullshit, right? Because those are, first of all, science is a mental formation of our own doing, right? It's a mental formation of our own doing. I'm glad that through the use of psychedelics, people are returning and finding meaning in that question again, and rejecting the outsourcing of it to technology, right? We were all sold this bill of goods, like, just outsource that great question to us and they'll solve it for you.
Oh, that's really interesting. This is what the universe is about. This is what creation's about. Fascinating.
Yeah.
Yeah, because we're limited by our capacity to understand.
I'm going to push back on that, actually. I don't think we're limited by our capacity to understand. I think what we're limited by is what we've been given. When I use these substances, the concept of oneness that I felt, even the words as I speak them fall flat on what I felt in my entire body,
Yeah.
So I'm sorry. I'm gonna push back on
That's well taken. In the East, I grew up Indian.
Yeah.
And my dad told me this, and he said that the reason why in ancient India, meditation and the study of the inward self became such a direction of society versus other communities is that there's this fundamental belief that the best way to understand the external world is by understanding one's inner world, because we are simply just like a drop of water is represented in the same components of the ocean. In the same way, we as human beings are just a droplet of all of existence, but we are the same material. It is not a 1 or 0, it's a 1 and 0.
Yes, yes, I love that. The Buddhists love to say, to reduce suffering in the world, one must first reduce suffering in self, right? And like the suffering of the world is your suffering. To reduce the suffering of the world is to reduce your suffering, right? They are one and the same.
I love that. We probably have about 15 minutes-ish left.
Oh, goodness.
I want to try something new with you if you're open to it.
Yeah, let's do it.
One of the aspects of founding a company is it's a hard journey and a hard process. And I thought that I'm speaking to so many clinicians. Maybe if you'd grace me with 15 minutes of a live mic session about me and my inner world, would you be open to that as a way to get to know me?
I think the question goes back to you, which you'll open to that.
Let's do it.
Okay.
So, where do we start?
Well, I always start with an assessment because I brought it through hospitals and clinics, so it always starts with an assessment.
Okay.
Shall we start with our assessment?
Let's do an assessment.
Okay, great. So tell me about your support. Who's your support?
Gosh, my family,
Okay. Family being?
my wife,
Okay.
2 kids,
Okay.
my friends.
Great. How's your relationship with your parents?
Pretty good, actually.
Right.
Good, good. Give it an 8 out of 10.
Right. How was discipline expressed as a child growing up in your home?
Oh, very restrictive.
Very restricted. How was love expressed as a child growing up in your home?
Through food.
Okay. Can we talk about drugs and alcohol?
Sure.
Okay. So, are you using any tobacco products currently?
No.
Okay. Moving up from tobacco, let's go to alcohol. What's your alcohol use like?
Once every 3 weeks?
Once every 3 weeks. Great. Ever drink to blacking out?
No.
Okay. Moving up, how about cannabis use? What's that like for you?
Once a week.
Once a week. Okay. Ever use it while operating a motor vehicle?
No.
Okay. Moving up from there, how about stimulants like cocaine, methamphetamine?
Clear.
Great. All right. And any other substances we should know about or talk about?
No?
Any substances you're concerned about that you might be using? Stevia? Yeah, man, don't be using that. Okay, great.
Junk food. I do, I stress eat.
Stressy. Okay. How long has that been going on for?
Since pandemic.
Since pandemic. Okay. Stress eat. Wow. How did your parents show affection?
Through food.
Through food. Yeah. So it's actually
Huh.
what you're doing is a lot of self-love. So let's not be so hard on ourselves.
Yeah.
Let's just remind ourselves, oh, this is mom and dad loving me. And boy, did I need that during the pandemic too. We all needed a lot of love. So if that's something you want us to focus on, let's start with a little compassion.
Yeah. You're right, because I think it's funny. I was reading about different products, and this app Noom came about, and I was like, it was interesting how it was one of the first diet apps really that focused on the association and the relationship, the psychology of relationship with food, and which is why it was so successful. And you're right. I mean, that's a profound shift of food was, and still is, a form of love and affection to my family. And, the pandemic was hard. And I think it was a coping mechanism. At night, hot Cheetos are delicious
Oh yeah.
after a long day with the kids.
Oh yeah. And oh yeah. Our secret pleasure, right? Yeah, ours was a lot of banana bread and pasta 9 ways to Sunday. That my husband seemed to have a new pasta recipe. Yeah. I'm sure that was all of our experiences. Yeah. Great. So, coming to therapy, what do you hope to get out of therapy? What do you hope to get out of this moment together?
I find that when I interact with people who intrinsically experience or practice oneness, that energy transmutes and it brings me out of the day to day, you know? And I think out of this experience, I want people to understand that therapy is not scary. Therapy is one of the best things. And it gets a bad rep. And I think a lot of people don't use it properly. But for me, I think this micro insight, what I want out of this micro session is a takeaway, something to ponder about myself. Honestly, the shift of hearing that food was the way that love was expressed growing up for me. And that my relationship with food is probably me loving myself changes the critical viewpoint that I have of myself from one of critique to one of compassion. And so I think I got very much out of this 3-minute therapy session that we just did. But it's amazing. And this is exactly the kind of work that at HPY we really appreciate. We really, really honor your craft and what you do each day, because I know for myself and so many others, having a safe space, having a space to discover myself and understand myself is the greatest gift that anyone could have, and a privilege, actually.
Yeah. Wow.
Well, thank you again. I want to make sure we get you home on time, but
Yeah.
thank you for taking the time to sit with us, sharing a little bit about yourself, your practice, and for those that are listening, if they want to find you, where can they find you?
Yeah. So Instagram is at Trees Counseling, all one word. My website is treescounseling.com. Yeah. Do you put phone numbers on these things if you want people to phone you or not?
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah, heck, line me up. 323-868-9266. Call me directly. I will pick up, and if I don't, I will return your message.
amazing. Well, thank you so much for spending the lovely afternoon with us. We look forward to hearing more from you soon.
And you.
High five.
Yeah.
That was fun.
Oh, that was wonderful. I could talk about this crap forever.
Thank you so much for joining us for Happy Hour. We hope you walked away having learned something and feeling a little less alone in the journey. If you liked what you heard, it would mean so much to us if you subscribe and can be notified every time we have a new episode. To learn more about what we are doing at HPY, go to thinkhpy.com. Until next time, we hope you feel heard. Take care.